I'll admit that I'm part of the problem, so I'm learning to soften my soul.
Hey beautiful family, I recorded a video the other day on my phone and then re-uploaded. I used that as an introduction to re-upload another video which I recorded a few years ago whilst sitting with a herd of elephant whilst I was out on what I would call a vision quest. So that video was about the problem with YouTube spiritual teachers, and I took it down because I wanted to speak more on the topic. And a lot of people wrote me saying, "Where's it gone? Don't take it down." And just I didn't feel I put enough effort into it, because it is a topic that's been on my heart a bit lately. And over the years, every so often I've caveated this, because it's important, I think, to caveat this as well. And what I was speaking about is this illusion of the perfected self that occurs when you're watching people on YouTube, especially speaking and teaching and sharing on spiritual topics. So when you watch somebody like myself, I am waiting until I'm in a good headspace, I'm in a good energetic space to record a video. And so that is not my permanent, sustained way of being. I have a permanent, sustained way of heart and outlook on the world, but that doesn't always coincide with my actions. And that is because I'm a human being. And Christianity covered this so perfectly. They said in Christianity, only one was perfect, and that was Yeshua Christ. That no human beings are perfect. That's the important thing from that message. So I myself want to caveat this to make it clear. You don't see me all of the time, and you shouldn't have this illusion of a perfected self and holding yourself to a standard which is unattainable. You aren't seeing me when I get frustrated at my toddler. You aren't seeing me when I argue with my wife. You're not seeing me when I lose my temper with my colleagues. You're not seeing the emotional side of me that I am in my spiritual videos speaking is a problem to all of us if we dwell within there as a permanent state. We have to understand that many people don't, and that's the problem. We have to understand that we need to elevate ourselves out of there to be efficient servants of God, to be efficient manifestors, to be efficient co-creators of God's will. And most dwell so deep in the story of who they are and their emotions, they actually don't know that. And that's the thing that is needed. But if you're looking at someone and they're only pointing the camera at themselves when they're in a good state, I'm not pointing it at myself when I'm unwell. I have autoimmune problems that I still deal with, and allergies to things, etc. I have good days and bad days, and I've just had a period of struggle after catching a virus, etc. You're seeing me when I'm feeling positive and motivated and energetic and centered. You're not seeing me in the other times. Likewise, you don't see the other human parts of me. You don't see me slobbing around if I'm having a day where I'm slobbing around. You're not witnessing that, because I don't feel inclined to put the camera on myself when I'm doing that naturally. I mean, who does? But it's important that you see it, because many YouTube spiritual teachers especially, they are falling into the soothsayer category that you find inside the Bible, and that is, they just create content for entertainment, which is nothing wrong with that. At least it's a positive form of entertainment and some form of education within there. And it's just soothsaying the spiritual carnality of people. It's just saying things they want to hear. We know these people are out there, but it's nothing negative against them. This is a path that they are walking, and this is something we clearly need, or we wouldn't be embracing as much. But I do beware and cautious of soothsayers, because at the end of the day, any good spiritual teacher should be pointing you to the truth. And this is one thing that I've always made clear, and I hope I continue to make clear. I started YouTube because of this, because of the children's village, because of the children. I wanted to have a voice for them. I became I moved into this space of speaking on my own inner world and spiritual topics because I called out Russell Brand, a Champagne Fabian socialist. And in doing that, I attracted a certain crowd, and I started speaking more about the inner workings of myself and what I felt in my heart, the song of my heart. As time has progressed, I got lost a little in my spiritual ego and naturally my YouTube ego of wanting to get views, so I know I was part of this problem. I remember specifically even when I was looking for clothes that looked more spiritual to try and match my outer to my inner feeling. And this is all the process and the journey that we're all on, and I am still on this journey of self-growth and development and serving God, and I am not perfect at it because no humans are perfect. But when you are presenting yourself and you never caveat and you never let people know, it's very dangerous for those viewing because they can say, hey, this person's in this state and I want to be there. All you can hope to do, first and foremost, is to lay yourself down with God and to receive a renewed heart. So the things of the flesh, the things of carnality, the things that had you out of control, the things that cut you away from God become detestable to you. Now, just because they become detestable doesn't mean that you won't subdue to the temptation sometimes. You won't fall for the temptation. That will happen. But renewing your heart is perhaps the thing that people see on me, and they say, I love this energy that I'm seeing, this love. And I believe that simply comes by laying your life down and allowing your life to be the will of God. You know, Jesus said he did not come to do his own will, but the will of the Father. And this is exactly how it must be. You must do the will of the Father. And you will have times where you don't, and you do your own will, and your carnality comes, because you're always warring between spirit and flesh and carnality and God's will. Your own will and God's will, your free will and God's will. It's always part of that journey. But to think that persons are in a permanent state of a perfected self, it's not true. And I feel it should be said that behind the scenes, away from what is a presentation of my life, what is a presentation of myself, which is what a YouTube video often falls into the category of, then I have all of those human issues to deal with. I deal with them less frequently than what I used to, and that's because I am more disciplined than many, and I've put more work into that. Doesn't mean, however, I don't lose my temper and so on and so forth. It just means that many persons are seeing what I have and wondering how they attain it. And I don't mind sharing that knowledge because I've got results. So I know what I'm saying is true. I have results that can be witnessed and seen, and they are beneficial and they are helping the world. And I'm then happy to share how it is that this has came to be, and how it is that I only came to be able to do this due to God's guidance and surrendering my will to the will of the Father. But if you are watching me and you are perhaps even putting yourself down because you're not there, remember that whatever I can do is human potential inside you. And so we are equals. It doesn't mean that I'm in the same space as you consciously. I'm clearly aware that sometimes I can get into a space of consciousness that even those close to me can't get into. And that's come from my hard work, because I never used to be able to. It's come from fasting. It's a 40-day water fast changes every human being on the planet, and I've been there. And I've done these long fasts. 40 days and 40 nights in Bible slang means a very long time. But I've literally done 40 days and 40 nights. But I've done 30 days, and they change you. They alter your brain, your spirit, your soul, everything. They're transformational. As did when I was practicing more frequently meditation, as does living in prayer. Most decisions I make, before I make them, I get conscious and I go to God and say, hey, what am I supposed to do? Because I know that these children require the best possible outcome, and me as a human being, as a man, I don't necessarily know. and God thus can guide me and tend to my heart and my will when I am in a leadership role, caring for such a large amount of persons and employees as well here. So don't look to me and think that I'm always in a perfect state, but look to me and see what it is that I have that you want. And what it is that many people want is that I've put the work in, I've put the discipline in, and I have walked by faith and not sight. Many people love God, many people have a relationship with God, many people know God, but they still lack the trust to walk by faith and not sight. They lack the trust to let the how be dependent on God.
Changamoto zinazowakumba, baadhi ya watoto hao hawana wazazi, wengine wana wazazi na wengine wanaishi katika mazingira ambayo ni magumu. Kitu ambacho kinachowafanya wawe katika mazingira magumu, kwanza wanakosa michango ya shule, pili wanakosa uniform za shule, tatu wanakosa hasa chakula cha kutumia nyumbani wakati wa jioni. Pia wanakosa hata watu wa kuwasaidia, kwani baadhi yao wanaishi na bibi zao. Baadhi ya vitu ambavyo watoto ambao hawana ni uniform, viatu, mabegi ya kubebea vifaa, madaftari, kalamu na vitabu, na vifaa vingine vya michezo ambavyo vinawasaidia kama uniform za michezo kwenda kwenye michezo.
Presently, at this very moment in time, last year, I have to do a proper video about this, but I can't fully announce it. Last year, I spent time drawing and designing a new complex for special needs children, the best possible one for the whole country of Tanzania. A children's village for adults, for children, including a hospital, dispensary, workshops, physio units, etc. I drew it and I had no finance to do that. I had no possible ability to build that at that time, but I really know that you don't have to see the whole staircase take the first step. In November, a donor, which is related to the church, has come to us. We didn't go and show anybody this or anything, and offered us land in the capital city, and we have received that donation with great thanks. I can't give the full details yet, but I took a step that most would never take, using time to create architectural drawings of something that you don't have money to build. Likewise, I did the same here. I went looking for, today is actually International Street Children Awareness Day. I set my team and myself looking for properties for a home for street involved boys, which we now have, Angels Gate, and we had no money in the bank. And I said, just look for it. I know God will provide. And literally within 2 weeks, we had the money to be able to pay rent. And you have to pay rent up front here for a year or two. And a big property like that was a lot of money. But this is how I operate, and most people won't go that way. They will not walk by faith. And this is something that I have that people want to touch. But the only way you can do it is to take the plunge eventually. You've got to leap into it and take that. So the problem comes when you look at me and think I'm in a perfected state all the time, because I'm not. I'm just not there. I have been guilty in the past of certain imagery, and that is because I was dealing with my own spiritual ego. But I am not in a permanent state of a perfected state, but I am in a permanent state of having a renewed heart. I am totally 100% focused on serving God, totally 100% focused on dedicating my life to these children, and I don't believe that there are many people in this world can love these children as much as I do. And that all came from a renewal of heart which comes from God. Now, you can ascertain that too, but in my experience it takes work. God's grace and mercy is enough to save you all. That is enough. He is there for you. the representation of Jesus, if you're Christian, is not that he died for you, for your sins, for what you did. You have no say in your nature. The important thing is to say he came to share in human suffering, which gives you power today that God's at your back. He came to share in it with you. When we go into the world and we know that God is with us, we can walk by faith and our carnality is eradicated. I see people coming here over the years, they try to start projects, but they're always waiting. They won't go and help the children until they fundraise enough for the 4-wheel drive. I was on a beat-up motorbike helping kids, and those persons are long gone. They haven't stuck around because they were walking by sight and not by faith. And that's why they didn't grow like I have, like Share Tanzania now has. Because of course these days it would be totally wrong to feel that I am provider when there's hundreds of people working here now. It's clearly God's show, but that initial drive to build it came from my stance of walking by faith and not by sight. That's what I think people see in me. But if you think I'm constantly in a state of nirvana, I'm not. I am wrestling with my flesh constantly as well. And many YouTube teachers do not divulge that. They don't want you to see the human side of them because they too have created a spiritual ego, and they have created this image of a kind of perfected self online, and they almost daren't admit to themselves that they're not, and in turn show you that they are not. And so that becomes a very difficult journey for any YouTuber, because I've passed through that myself, where you, instead of being authentic, try to be an image, which is just the journey of humanity, especially social media times, etc. But if you want to find a true YouTube spiritual teacher and someone who's genuinely leading you to truth, we can address that before I sign off. Because the reality is, if someone's leading you to truth, they're all going to lead you in the same way, and that is to make you go within. That is how it is. God is a presence in our lives. Now, he can renew your heart, but the temptation will come. And so going within allows us to have power over the temptation, because when you surrender to temptation and you haven't done the inner work and the renewal of your heart, when you haven't done that, then the temptation will corrode you, put you off track, corrupt you, and you will end up not serving anymore. It's as simple as that. And so what a teacher, if anyone is going to teach you anything, should do is teach you to turn within, to find God through yourself. Woe to the lawgivers, for they do not enter within. As a yogi would say, you self-realize and then you God-realize after that. When you enter a state of self-realization, then you can move into a state of God-realization. Anybody who doesn't send you inward is teaching you things of the world perhaps, but the true path of the spiritual journey is to realize it yourself. Because it can't be that you hang on other people, can't be that you look to other people, can't be that you expect other people to be perfect. Because what happens when you do that is they will falter, they will stumble. I've seen it in my own life. People meet me in person and they feel disappointed because of seeing me only in my good times. They don't see me when I use a curse word, they don't see me when I lose my temper, lose my cool. And it's a disappointment to them. But this is not my failing. That's their failing for idolizing, for putting someone in a position that's not ascertainable by human beings, of a constant perfected state. Maybe if I lived in a monastery, in an ashram, a monastic life, I might be able to ascertain it more permanently. But in the most part, when you're dealing with real life, I don't think it is achievable. I don't think it is possible to stay in that constant state of peace. You can stay there in the most part, of course. But I see people, they look disappointed. And that's because they've got this wrong image. But the problem then comes is they'll mix that image with God and say, this person serves God and now I'm disappointed in their actions, in their speech. And reality is, if I'm disappointing, it's my carnality disappointing. It's not God. And the two need to go together. So when you look at someone and you say, I'm disappointed in them, it can bring down your feeling towards God as well. But this is wrong, because God will not disappoint. It's the carnality, the free will within me that will disappoint you. And so you shouldn't view someone as perfect. And if you want to find someone who's going to show you the truth, find someone who's sending you inside. This is why all my spiritual videos that I do, they all speak about the same journey, the inner journey of having the strength to overcome temptation, to overcome the lower nature, which allows you to stay in the elevated frequency of Mother, Father, Creator. And from that place, you can fight for the love that we wish to see on this planet, the love of God manifest here. If they're not pointing you in, you can learn some things, but in the most part, there should be a point where they are pointing you that you will only be your own guru. You might need a guru to point you to make that realization that only self-realization will lead to truth, will lead to you being centered and grounded here in this world, in the present moment with God. But that is all you need them for. Anything other than that is education on a spiritual carnal level, or it is entertainment, I guess, would be another term for it. And neither are bad. They're all part of the journey. But a true teacher will send you in. They'll send you within. And I think every single one of my videos where I've interpreted spiritual topics, etc., have done that. I feel I have always pointed people that you should enter within, you should self-realize. Because from there, to serve and build and change the world, you have to be happy. And when you go within, you realize that even if you're seeking happiness in meditation, or you're seeking happiness with worldly desire, both of them fall into the same trap. If you're seeking happiness from things of the world, from the sports car, from the nice restaurant, from whatever, or you're seeking happiness from meditation, both are error. Because happiness is with you, and it's here and it's now. And when you seek, you try to move to attain it, and you don't need to move to attain it. It's like a tree uprooting itself and trying to move around to find its tree nature. It's going to get sick because it pulls itself up at the roots. When we start with our mind trying to seek the internal happiness, trying to seek the happiness outside of us, seek it in worldly pleasures, whatever it may be, then all we are doing is setting ourselves up to uproot ourselves and move away. Because what you had to stop doing all along was stop seeking and allow. Because that is the true state, and that is why enlightenment is only ever one conscious breath away from us. And this is what a spiritual teacher should be showing you. And most of us, however, are not in that state. We are in a state of wrestling and fighting with the very nature that stops us from allowing that. And that's why we seek things from outside to feel good, because that very nature of allowing, that very nature of being rooted in our tree nature is absent. And it's absent because we're always dancing around and trying to grab something from outside to make it happen. And when you get rooted in that tree nature and you stop desiring, then that's where you can do the will of the Father with so much ease, because you just feel happy and loving. So if you're going to watch any spiritual teacher, let them guide you to there. But the problem with any YouTube spiritual teacher who doesn't caveat that is that they too have a normal side that you should be aware of. And don't set yourself the illusion of the permanent perfected self. Set yourself the illusion of metanoia, transformation. Metanoia in the Bible is the word replaced often with baptism. It's transformation. With repentance, transformation. Transform yourself. John the Baptist used to shout metanoia. That's why I said baptism. Transform yourself into that being, bit by bit, that you want to be, the being that can embody that love and share that love, the being that is so happy, just rooted in their own nature, not seeking it with meditation, not seeking it with worldly goods, just silent and allowing it by allowing God's presence and frequency right here to radiate from them. That is your target. And if a teacher's not showing you that, then understand that they are showing you something different, but they are not leading you to the direct 100% truth of who you are. And you can attain it, but you won't attain it as a 100% permanent state. And nor can I, because none of us are perfect. God bless, guys.